Hello, grade 12s. So welcome to my channel, and this is my first video up on my YouTube page, which is going to be of many. And I am going to start with some revision of paper 1 for our June exam. This is going to be a many part video, so hopefully you guys check it out on my playlist. I'm going to do them question by question, break it down, solve it out for you guys, and show you exactly how to answer. I hope you guys are ready and you have your pen and pages. And if there's any questions, you just pop them down in the comment section below. So guys, let's look at question 1. I am doing Eastern Cape's June 2024 paper, which covers these sections quite extensively. So let's check it out. The first question says solve for x. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the easiest way to do this is to open out the brackets. One thing I always tell my learners is if you're confused, just go back to grade 8 and 9 and let's start solving. So as you can see, this would be easier if we open out the brackets. And here we go. So it's going to be x squared minus 8x. Negative times negative is a positive, so that's 16, and that's equal to 25. Now we can see this is coming out to be a quadratic equation. And whenever we get quadratic equation, guys, we know that we'll have to put them all on one side. So we're looking at something like this. And we know that this simplifies to minus 9. So there's so many different ways to factorize a trinomial. And the easiest way I would tell my learners is obviously to put it straight into the quadratic formula. Let's not think. However, this one's quite easy. So we can actually factorize it. And we can see that this would become x plus 1. And the next one would be x minus 9. That's equal to 0. So therefore we have x is equal to minus 1 or x is equal to 9. Quite simple. I hope you guys understood that one. Let's look at the next question. Now, here's another thing that is quite glaring at us, and that is where they tell us 2 decimal places. Now, the moment we see this in brackets, immediately I tell my grade 12s all the time, and grade 11s, I tell them the moment we see this, the only thing that should go to our head is the quadratic formula, which will be found on your data sheet. However, it's good to know it off. So the moment you see this, ladies and gentlemen, immediately grade 12s, you just remember, okay, whatever I'm doing, we need to put this into the quadratic formula. Now, we do know that that's my A value. This would be my B, and this would be my C. Now, in another way, where we don't have them equal to 0, you're going to put them all onto one side, exactly like what we did here. And thereafter, get them into their normal quadratic equation state for the A value, B, and C, and let's put that straight into the formula. So we know that the formula is a minus B plus minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Now we're just going to substitute that into our formula. Please do not forget our brackets. Absolutely important for us not to forget our brackets. The B value, as we can see, is 2. The A value is minus 3. The C value is 2. And all over the A, which would be minus 3. Now we're going to substitute that into our calculator, and we're going to find that these answers are actually, there's 2 answers, and that is the square root of 7 plus 1 over 3. Now, here's where learners get it wrong, and they would write down the third answer and they wouldn't write them down into decimal places. But always remember what our question asked us for 2 decimal places. So on your calculator, you're going to press SD, and you're going to write down the decimal places. Now, please don't forget a rounding off errors. It says 1,215, which actually becomes 1 comma 2 2, or x would be equal to same negative 0 comma 548, which turns out to be 0.55. Now, as you can see, they actually tested you on your rounding off there. Okay, quite. Now, the last question of the day for this for the question 1 that I'm doing is simultaneous equations. Now, guys, simultaneous equations is so simple. All I tell my learners is the same rules over and over again. So the first rule that I have is that I always look for the simpler equation, and thereafter I would label the equations. So obviously that means equation 1 and equation 2. I thereafter would solve the simpler one and make that equation 3. Because I used the simpler one, that means I would now to substitute it in the opposite equation. Substitute into the opposite equation and solve. And then finally substitute it back into 3. Now, I know I haven't been teaching you guys before, but I will be making up some videos for all of these grade 11 algebra, which you guys can do some revision with. And these rules always, like 99% of the time, always work out. So let's check that out. Okay, let's see. The first rule says look for the simpler equation, and we can see that this is the simpler equation. So I know I need to work with that. That's just for me. So I know I'm working with this one. The next rule says label. I'm labeling them. Obviously, now this is going to be on my answer sheet. So a marker actually knows what you're actually writing and what you're doing. So I'm not going to rewrite it out. Okay, wait, I'll just rewrite it out just for the sake of it. And we know that that's equation 1. And obviously this looks very complicated, so this would definitely be my equation 2, because I can't work with this. They say solve for the simpler one and make that equation 3. So the simpler one is actually number 1. So I'm going to say in equation 1, we know that 1 y is equal to 2x, and that's equal to 5. Now I'm going to solve. You can choose which one is a simpler letter to solve for, and I can see that clearly it is y. So I'm going to solve for y. And I'm left with 5 minus 2x, and I clearly just solved it. So that becomes equation 3. Now the next rule says substitute into the opposite equation. So I used 1. Now I need to substitute it into 2. So I'm going to say substitute 3 into 2, because I just used 1 to solve. Now I need to go around and get that there. So wherever I'm seeing y, wherever we see y, this is what I'm going to be putting in. This equation right here is what I'm going to be putting in. So I can see there's a y here, there's a y here. So wherever those numbers are is where, variables are, I'm going to be putting that in. So watch how I substitute. Remember, we love brackets for substitution. It is my best friend. Right, and now we just open out the brackets. Quite simple. As we all can see, we stem this out from question 1.1. Everything deals with question 1.1. Sorry about that. X times that is minus 5x plus 2x squared. Now I can't really open out the 4 because I need to actually open this out. And that is a same thing as saying this. So we're looking at 25 minus 20x plus 4x squared, and that's equal to 8. Now we would have to open here so we don't get confused. Two plus 2 is 4. 4 minus 16 is actually minus 12x squared. Thereafter, I can see we're looking at these two only. And that means I'm left with minus 5 plus 80, which is plus 75x. And I'm left with minus 100 here, and that's equal to 8. So I can take the 8 over now, and I am left with minus 12x squared plus 75x minus 100 minus 8, and that's equal to 0. Now I know some of you guys are saying that I'm showing you all the steps and it's a bit long. However, there are some of us who do not understand simultaneous equations, although we're in grade 12. So it's good to learn even though we know it. Now, guys, we are going to actually use the quadratic formula here. This is because in case we are dealing in the exam and we're confused, go-to is my quadratic formula. Now we know that that's A, B, C. Simple, easy, fun. Okay, 75 plus minus the square root of b squared, which is 75 squared, minus 4a minus 12, and c minus 108. Okay. Hal over minus 12. Let's check those answers out. So, answer is actually 4. Or x is equal to 9 over 4. Now, we have two answers. That means there's going to be two y values. Now, I solved in quite a long way. And now that I solved them out, let's check what my last thing says. My last rule says substitute it back into equation 3. Now we already can see that that's equation 3. So we know y is equal to minus 5. Y is equal to 5 minus 2x. Substitute. Quite simple. 5 minus 8 is minus 3, or y is equal to, this is my x value, and these are my y values. Now, one of the last things I always tell my learners is to just put them as coordinates so we know that they both belong together. Done. So thank you for watching, and I hope you guys are ready for question 2 coming up.